Australia is facing a storm of debate and criticism following the introduction of a new deportation bill that could impact the lives of up to 80,000 people. This legislation, known as the Migration Amendment Bill, has sparked concerns about human rights, family separations, and the ethical implications of deporting individuals to third countries. Let's unpack what's happening, who is at risk, and the potential consequences of this controversial policy. Who could be affected? The Migration Amendment Bill was introduced with the stated aim of addressing immigration issues in Australia. Officials from the Department of Home Affairs confirmed at a Senate inquiry that the bill doesn't expand the group of people eligible for deportation. However, it significantly broadens the number of individuals it could potentially affect. One of the most alarming revelations is that this bill grants the Australian government the authority to pay third countries to accept non-citizens marked for deportation. Critics argue this outsourcing of responsibility raises serious ethical and practical questions about how those deported will be treated and whether their rights will be respected. Michael Thomas, a senior official in the Home Affairs Department, revealed some startling statistics during the Senate inquiry, and among those potentially affected are 1. 75,400 people living in the Australian community without valid visas. 2. 4,452 individuals on Bridging Visa E, meant to facilitate their departure from Australia. 3. 986 people currently in immigration detention. 4. 193 individuals in community detention. 5. 246 people on Bridging Visa R, released after the High Court ruled indefinite detention unlawful. 6. 96 individuals on older bridging visa types impacted by this decision. That's a total of over 80,000 people, each with their own story, who now face an uncertain future. The potential impact. One of the most significant concerns raised by human rights advocates is the devastating impact this bill could have on families. Josephine Langbian, Associate Legal Director at the Human Rights Law Centre, painted a grim picture during the inquiry. She highlighted how individuals could be forcibly separated from their families and sent into permanent exile in third countries against their will. What's more troubling is the lack of clarity surrounding the destinations of these deportations. She stressed that Australia has not disclosed which countries will be involved, leaving people vulnerable to a range of dangers. They could be detained arbitrarily, denied medical care, or violently attacked, she warned. They might also be sent back to their country of origin, where they could face persecution or worse. These are not hypothetical scenarios, as cases of mistreatment, neglect, and violence against deported individuals have been documented in the past. Refugee Convention dilemma. Adding to the controversy, the bill does not require third countries to be signatories to the United Nations Refugee Convention. This international treaty is designed to protect the rights of refugees, ensuring they are not returned to places where they face serious harm. Karina Ford, chair of the Law Council's Migration Committee, voiced her concerns about this loophole. Sometimes it's easier to make deals with countries that have not signed up to the convention, she explained. This raises questions about the ethical standards of the countries Australia might partner with. Without adherence to the Refugee Convention, there's no guarantee that deported individuals will be treated humanely or provided with basic protections. Australia's track record. Stephanie Foster, the Secretary of the Home Affairs Department, attempted to allay concerns by stating that Australia does not return people to countries where they are likely to face harm, in line with its non-refoulement obligations. Non-refoulement is a principle in international law that prohibits sending individuals to places where they may face persecution or torture. However, critics argue that this assurance is insufficient. The lack of transparency about which countries Australia plans to involve, coupled with the broad scope of the bill, leaves room for significant risk. Community safety versus human rights. Supporters of the bill, including the Home Affairs Minister, have emphasized that the legislation is about ensuring community safety. The government has framed the bill as a measure to remove individuals without valid visas, focusing on those who may pose a risk to public order. But opponents argue this narrative oversimplifies a complex issue, as most of the 80,000 people identified by the Department of Home Affairs are not dangerous criminals. In fact, many are asylum seekers, families and individuals who have been in Australia for years, contributing to their communities. While it's true that thousands of individuals without valid visas have returned to their home countries voluntarily, the forced deportation of others raises serious ethical concerns. High Court ruling. A key factor driving this legislation is a recent High Court ruling that declared indefinite detention unlawful. This decision has already led to the release of many individuals from immigration detention, including those on bridging visas. For some, this ruling was a beacon of hope, a step toward more humane treatment of migrants in Australia. But the government's response, in the form of this new bill, has dampened that optimism. By shifting the focus to deportation, critics say Australia is doubling down on a punitive approach rather than addressing the systemic issues in its immigration system. A global perspective. Australia is not the only country grappling with these challenges, and the debate over migration, deportation, and human rights is playing out on a global stage. In a different country, a controversial plan to send asylum seekers to Rwanda faced significant backlash and legal challenges, and similar policies have been criticized in the United States and Europe. What sets Australia apart is the scale of this new bill and its potential to impact tens of thousands of lives. If implemented, it could serve as a precedent, one that other nations might follow or condemn. What happens next? The bill is still under consideration, with passionate arguments on both sides, and advocates for human rights are calling for greater transparency and accountability in Australia's immigration policies. They argue that the government should focus on creating pathways to residency and citizenship for long-term visa holders and asylum seekers, rather than resorting to deportation. On the other hand, supporters of the bill insist that it's a necessary step to uphold the integrity of Australia's immigration system. They argue that those without valid visas have had ample time to regularize their status or leave the country voluntarily. The Senate inquiry has shed light on the potential consequences of this legislation, but the ultimate decision rests with lawmakers. Will they prioritize community safety, as the government claims, or will they heed the warnings of human rights advocates? Why it matters? At its core, this debate is about more than just policy. It's about people, and behind the statistics are real lives, families, and communities that will be profoundly affected by the decisions made in Canberra. As this story unfolds, one thing is clear: the stakes couldn't be higher, and for the 80,000 people caught in the crosshairs, the future remains uncertain. And for Australia, the world is watching. That will be all in this video. Please share your opinions with us in the comments area. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and enable the notification bell to receive updates on Australia immigration news. Thanks for watching.